Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today, upwards compression. Listen to the difference between this and this. Upwards compression. Let's get to it. And here's what it's doing. We're hearing this in Ableton using a plugin called Multiband Dynamics on a preset called OTT. And the reason I'm making this video is I've been getting used to upwards compression in Ableton here, but I've seen the term upwards compression start to be named in other compression plugins, and it's kind of cool. You might want to see if your plugin is capable of it. Well, how is it different than normal compression? Normal compression turns the loud peaks down, and then you can turn the entire signal up, meaning that you're hearing stuff that used to be quiet louder. Why? Well, you turned everything up after you got rid of those pesky peaks. That's normal compression top down. But this is bottom up. It won't turn down your peaks. It will only turn up the quiet stuff. This is separated into 3 bands. I have bass down here. Right now, mid-range, I do have some bottom-up compression turned up there. I also have the option to put it on treble. Let's start with mid-range because it's easier to hear it. Okay, dialing it back. Here's the actual snare sample. Let me crank it way up. And it sounds almost like reverb. But it's actually just the quiet part at the end of the sample, the tail off of the snare sample getting turned up. Let me dial it back a hair. Kind of cool. Now, if I did that with the highs, it would be more apparent on things like cymbals and so forth. Let me put the whole drum track on. Okay, here's upwards compression on just the treble. Weird, huh? Also on just the bass. Whoopee. But back to the mid-range. Now, if you're pretty good at dialing in regular compression, and I mean things like setting the threshold and the attack time and the release time and these things, those are all parameters available on bottom-up compression, but boy, you really got to work to train your ears to be able to use it. And when does it make sense to use it? Well, here's a track that I'm currently working on. Okay, let's pay attention to that little break that we heard there, that rise. Well, it's at the volume that I want, so I don't really want to compress it, but it kind of starts late. But I don't really have control over it because it's a sample. What I can do is I can choose whether I want the highs or the mids or the lows to kind of be boosted when they're very quiet in the beginning of the sound. Let's crank the highs way up and see what it does. Ooh. Now, I can also turn down the output of the highs if I want to. But let's catch those mids, bring them up. We'll try this. Well, it sounded to me like the sound was more evident more quickly. Let's A-B the 2. Here's with it. And a lot of after ring. Here's without it. Quite different. Okay, let's try it in the mix. First off, here's without the upwards compression. It's not bad. It came in a little bit late and it didn't really lead me to thinking, oh, this will be cool. Here it is on. Early. Kind of cool. Okay, we're going to try it just on the kick. Right now it's off. And on. Okay, now I know it did boost up in volume, which I'm kind of okay with because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to blend it in. We have a whole video on this called the OTT Blend. I'll link it below. Absolutely amazing on a full drum bus, but here it is just on a kick. I'm going to blend it out to 0, and I'm going to bring it up until my ear tells me, hey, this is cool. Here's blend it out. And in. Kind of cool. And off. And on. All right, let's put that back in the mix. And off. So how do we know if this is something that we want to use? Well, the answer is this. If it's something loud that we want to turn down, that's for normal compression or limiters. And remember, limiter is just a compressor with the ratio set to 10:1 or higher, like 20:1 or infinite to 1. That's all a limiter is. But they only affect the very loudest parts of a signal and turn them down. And then we can turn the entire signal up. And you say, well, at that point, I hear the quiet stuff louder because you turned everything up. And that's true. But if you're more listening to what is the quiet part of the track, it might be a softly spoken word in a vocal track. It might be the final tail off of a snare sample or a kick sample or something you're chasing down and going, ah, I wish that was louder. Well, normal compression would do the thing where it squashes all the peaks to allow you to turn the whole track up, but that might not be your goal. If your goal is literally to bring up something at the end of a sample or in the middle of a phrase or something and just make the quiet part louder, that's what upwards compression does. Now, if you're an Ableton user and you have access to multi-band dynamics, you have top-down and bottom-up compression set up all in the same plugin. And I've seen new plugins coming out that have this capability of upwards compression, and it's not something that gets talked about a lot. I have very limited experience, but I do like messing with it, especially with the blend thing. Remember, check that video below. Don't forget to come join us in our Facebook group, Recording Tips. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it.